So I just got out of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and I'm going to give some thoughts on it. I am going to keep this spoiler free up until a point, but I'll make it very clear when that's happening. But I feel like most of the people who are going to go see this are probably already going to see it. Like, even if the reviews for it were like really bad or people were shit talking it, the people who wanted to see this were going to go see it because it was absolutely a movie with a ton of hype for it. Hype that started after the post credits of the second movie. To give a little background of where I stand with the movies, because it's not something I talk about that frequently on this channel. And before I say that, let me just say, if you want like a highly edited video, like, he's just doing a shitty phone video, Year of the Hedgehog 3 will have a portion for it, if anyone knows what that. Maybe you've never been on this channel before, but if you have, if you're familiar, Year of the Hedgehog 3 next year, that'll be where the effort review comes in. But for me, just to talk about it after walking out of the theater, yeah, I'm just going to film it like this. But the first two, the first one I didn't really care for. I don't think it's bad. It's like a fine kids movie, you know? But I think that's all it was a fine kids movie once they fixed the design, because even if you're not a fan of the franchise, that design was just ugly. Like, I always hear so many people when they're talking about like their complaints at the Knuckles show or just anything with the movie saying, oh, but if we like complain enough, they'll listen because of the redesign in the first. No, the reason they redesigned him in the first movie was because, not because Sonic fans didn't like it, it's because it was universally bad. I'm not the first person to point this out, so I won't go into that too long. But ultimately, it was just something that had to happen if that movie was gonna succeed at all, if anyone was gonna go see it, because it literally had to, like, the original design was really, really bad, and no one was gonna, like, it was obvious. It was obvious to everyone. It wasn't just a Sonic fan thing. I didn't really like Robotnik, Jim Carrey's Robotnik, because just didn't really feel like the character. It just felt like Jim Carrey being crazy to me. But ultimately, it was fine. It was inoffensive. It's like a 6 out of 10 for me. Not bad, not amazing, but it's like, you know, it's well put together. It's fine. Finally, the second one comes out, and that one I had a lot more hype for, because I wasn't excited for the first movie either, even as a fan of the series. But by the time the second one came out, which was also right around the time I started Spiny, this channel, I was a lot more hyped for it, because it felt like they were pointing it more in the directions of the games. Like, maybe they knew that they actually had something now where that first one wasn't really going to be that much, but then they were like, well, shit, we changed the design and all these people went and saw it. Maybe there's potential for this. Maybe we should care a little more. And the second one showed that care for me, even though it wasn't perfect. I really enjoyed myself. I watched it like maybe 3 times. I went and saw it in theaters and loved it. On a second view, and I was still having fun, but kind of losing interest. On a third watch, I kind of stopped in the middle of it, because I enjoy the movies, but they're not like peak entertainment for me. When it comes to this franchise, I've always been more into the games. Like, I think the OVA is cool, but even a lot of the TV shows that I didn't watch growing up. But yeah, I liked the second one a lot more, and Jim Carrey finally won me over in that one, because it felt like it's a different version. It's a very different version, but it kind of felt like it delved into Robotnik specifically. It's not just Jim Carrey playing a mad scientist anymore. It is specifically his take on this character now. The design with how they changed his appearance, like that was a big part of it. And this third one takes it a step further with both Gerald and, you know, him actually getting his suit by the end of the movie. I do always kind of hate when movies have to wait until the last act to do that. Even the first Sonic movie did that with the shoes. But hey, you know what? He at least, like, after the second movie, mainly had the look down. I wasn't too bothered by that. Gerald looked pretty good too. I had fun with their performances in this movie. But yeah, we'll get into 3 now. I like those first. I like the second one. The first one's not even bad, but I did have a lot of hype for this third one, because the more and more I saw from it, the more and more it just felt like this is just going to be fun. This is just going to be a good time. And yeah, it was. It really was. I feel like they utilized the characters really well. Knuckles and Tails didn't feel like they had to take like a major backseat with Shadow and like Gerald being here now. They still felt very like in the plot. In fact, I'd say Tails was actually better in this one than the second one, because the second one, he felt like it felt like the second one was more focused on Knuckles, so they couldn't really do much with him. I actually feel like Tails is kind of poorly written in certain scenes in the second one, but I still liked it. I still liked seeing him, but I think he was a lot better in this one. He felt a lot more natural. Everything, the friendship between him and Sonic felt a lot more believable, which makes sense since they're actually like the second movie is them growing that bond. The third one, they already have it. But I really thought the chemistry between Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, who are all together in the movie throughout most of it, it's just like the final act where they're not really together much. It's probably going too much into spoilers, but I'll stop there. But I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed them. Shadow was great. Keanu Reeves, I don't really know how I feel about him as an actor. I really think he seems like a really cool guy, and the John Wick movies are awesome. But I just haven't seen a lot from him, and some of the movies I have seen from him, he kind of gives a dry delivery sometimes. Like, he's good at playing a badass who doesn't say much, but when you have to give him a ton of dialogue, I'm not sure. Granted, Shadow kind of falls under that category of badass that doesn't say much, but he had a lot of lines as Shadow in this movie, and I think he delivered them well. I was completely on board with him. It was also, good feedback, kind of listening to what the audience wants pretty well, because a lot of people were requesting him as Shadow. It was him or Christian Hayden. I don't even, it's a Star Wars guy. I don't know him that well, but I know people wanted him too. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I don't know a lot about it. But I know that was like the other big one. And Keanu, I think, was a good pick. And I think Shadow looked great in this movie. I think this is probably the best looking movie of the three so far. And I just gotta say, start to finish, every scene was fun. If it wasn't an action scene, there was still something in it that made it fun. There was no big distraction like the wedding scene in the second one, which I didn't mind too much. It was kind of like a funny shitpost how off topic it got, how out of focus it got. But I have to say, with that, this third movie, it does include the human characters still. In fact, I think Tom and Maddie are probably more involved in this one than they were in the second movie. But they blended into the story well. It wasn't like this B plot that they had to try to force together at the end. No, they were like naturally put into the story. Like, their inclusion made sense. It made sense that they would travel with the characters to a specific place. It makes sense that they would continue having a role in the movie after a certain point. And they made good use of Tom. They made really good use of both of them. They threw in a lot of the other human characters from the first two movies too, but they're very quick appearances. It's mainly like Tom, Maddie, Stone, Robotniks, But still, it was, I think they were handled a lot better in this movie than the second one. All the action scenes were a lot of fun, especially in the third act. Oh my God, I was having the time of my life with that. Really, I think it's almost a perfect Sonic movie. Now, there's two things holding it back. It's the two things that have been holding it back from the very start, and I'm never going to stop saying this, because once these live action movies are done, if they ever try to do a Sonic movie again, I really hope they'll take this route, which is 2D animation, or maybe CG could work, but I think 2D is the way to go. Animated, and the score, they had more cues to the games than they ever have before with this one, and I think they incorporate a little bit of Sonic Adventure 2 music into the score, but it's kind of the bare minimum. The score of this movie really wasn't better than the first or second one, but what are you gonna do? That's the direction they took. It stayed that way. I guess it's a little better than the first two, but I really wouldn't say it by a lot. But there were some fun little music cues they did that I wasn't expecting. There's two jingles that they play very quickly in the movie, neither of which I expected to hear in it, and it kind of put a smile on my face when I heard it. And there's other little music cues too, but it's nothing big. I think most of them will be missed, and a lot of them are of the same track. They aren't really being that brave. In fact, I actually think one of the only pieces of video game music that was in the first movie actually just gets replayed in this third one for a scene. So yeah, they're not really going that crazy. And I've always had this discussion with my friend Chris, where she says they don't really need to put music from the games into the movie, but they should try to find something like a soundtrack that matches Sonic a little better, kind of like the OVA did, because the OVA had music that was completely original. But it also felt like in place, like that score fits in with the Sonic franchise, where the live action ones, it's just like any other fucking superhero movie. It's nothing special. It fits the scenes it belongs in well. It's not a bad score, but it's super forgettable. And I'm saying this not as a Sonic fan. I'm saying this as someone who loves movie scores. I love listening to them while I work. I love a good film score. I love a good video game soundtrack. I like instrumentals a lot, and I think that Sonic is one of the best at that. So it's a bummer to see how generic they go for the movies. With that being said, I'm going to go into spoilers a little bit. I'm not going to talk about too many things that happen in the movie, but I want to talk about two things. One is actually another small nitpick I have with the movie, and the other is I just kind of want to talk about the direction it's going. Because there is a post-credit scene, and I want to talk about that. So yes, this is the point to leave the video if you don't want to hear anything. I probably did say more than I wanted to say in some other parts, but I think I kept it mainly spoiler-free. I think it was mainly good. So I think we're cool. But now definitely leave the video. Okay, so my one complaint that isn't it's not animated and they don't have a great score. My one complaint, and this does bum me out more than it's going to bum out most people, I think they half-assed Live and Learn so badly. It sounded great, but they played it for 20 seconds. And I kind of just wish they would have let it play throughout the scene. Like, you know, it's okay to cut back to the doctors and cut back to, like, Tails and Knuckles during the scene. It's fine to cut back to all of that. But you don't have to turn off Live and Learn when you do it. Just have it playing in the background still. If you want to cut the lyrics for when characters talk, do it. But it plays for 20 seconds, goes away, and comes back and plays for like maybe another 10. Like, I was so disappointed by that. I really wanted to hear Live and Learn in the movie, and I got to, but even the vocals from the band, like actually hearing them sing the song, that's even less than 20 seconds. They barely play any of the song. They don't play it from where it starts at the lyrics. They kind of just pick a random section in the middle and cut it off, and I'm like, oh, you were so close. You were so close to making this amazing scene, and they still did. It was still fun. It just really throws me off. Like, and again, like, I wouldn't expect more from these movies since they don't pull music from the games, except you started playing it and then you cut it off, and that drives me insane. And I really wish they would have used more of Live and Learn. I guess it's better than them not using it at all. I think I'd be more disappointed if they didn't use it at all, but that really felt like a tease to me. Maybe everyone will disagree with me on that, or maybe it played longer than I realized, but because I was expecting the whole song, or at least a good chunk of it, I should at least be able to hear the amount of Live and Learn that it takes me to beat that final boss, which is probably like a minute at the most. So yeah, give me a minute of Live and Learn. But it was fine. I'm still glad they put it in. I'm still glad it was actually Crush 40 singing the song in the movie. I thought that was cool. I kind of thought they were gonna like maybe just have them do the instrumentation, or just kind of give them a pat on the back saying these are the original guys, but here's our version that we're playing instead. No, they play the actual song, and I thought that was cool. Maybe like some different instrumentation, but it's still the band singing it, which I liked. But they couldn't even bring it back for the credits. They have this original song that I didn't really like. I liked the credits. They switched to 3D animation and kind of went with like a mix of, kind of felt like a mix of Sonic R and Sonic the Fighters. That was kind of neat for me. I'm a big fan of those too, so that was neat. Even though it's a little weird because wouldn't like the adventure game art style be the one to go with? But I kind of get it. It's like the first two credit sequences from 1 and 2 were 2D, so now it's kind of going to early 3D Sonic, and maybe movie 4 can do something that's more reminiscent of the adventure games, especially since from what we've seen in the second post-credit, Shadow is still alive, so it's still going to probably Shadow in the 4th movie. And I want to talk about that post-credit scene now to end it off. Amy being in this movie felt obvious to me, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be post-credits or main movie, but when she didn't appear in any trailers, I was like, okay, post-credits. What I didn't expect was it for it to be Metal Sonic and Amy, and maybe that also should have been obvious, but you know, it's kind of like, it felt like Metal would be underwhelming compared to Shadow, because even though there's people out there that love Metal Sonic, they absolutely adore the character, he's a favorite villain to a lot of Sonic fans, in terms of universal appeal, like, a lot more people are familiar with this character, a lot more people like this character, and it's not even necessarily like big fans of the series. I know people in my family who aren't that into Sonic, but they know Shadow. You know, Shadow has way more appeal than Metal, so I wasn't sure if they were going to do Metal, but at the same time, I was like, who are they going to do? They're going to put the fucking Deadly Six in there? They're going to put Silver in there? Like, it's not impossible, but it just doesn't, like, it's like, who else do they have that could cause that much hype as Shadow? And to me, it was just like, in my head, it was like, okay, maybe I was sure they would throw Amy in. I was like, if they're going to throw another villain in, maybe they'll do Metal, but maybe they'll go out of order and do Chaos. I didn't actually think the Deadly Six stood a chance, there's the side of me that would have been like a little annoyed that they went that route. There's also the side of me that's like a fucking troll and would have fucking laughed my ass off at that. I would have laughed just because I know it was going to piss a lot of people off. But no, that they went with Metal and Amy, and I like that. I'm excited for that. Curious what their approach is going to be. To me, Jim Carrey being in the fourth one is not off the table, even though it's unlikely after that ending. But to me, it's not off the table. If Shadow can still be alive, Robotnik can still be alive. And you know, they've already done a fake off his death. It feels like killing him at the end of the movies is the move to make in case he can't come back, in case they can't get Jim Carrey back. But if Jim Carrey says, "Oh, I'll do the fourth movie," are they going to say no to it? Are they going to say, "No, you can't"? They're going to put him in. As long as they can afford it. I don't know. I mean, it feels like they've been doing pretty good with these Sonic movies. I'm sure they could get Jim Carrey back for a fourth one. It sounds like he'd probably do another one. But we'll see. You know, we'll see. And then, I think Amy and Metal is a good way to go. Who would I have wanted in like a dream scenario for the next movie? I mean, in a dream scenario, Amy would have been in this one, but honestly, if the way the story flows, it kind of feels like it's good that she isn't, because like I said, they do give Tails and Knuckles time. They do spend a lot of time with the two Robotniks. They do spend enough time with Shadow. They spend enough time with the human characters. We spend enough time with... They balance the characters out so well in this one. I was actually really impressed by that, and perhaps throwing Amy in could throw that off. At the same time, I don't know. It's a little shitty that this character that got introduced before Shadow is like just taking the post-credits scene of the third movie while Shadow got the post-credits. I get it though. He's more popular. He's going to bring people in. And now this fourth one just has to hope that there's enough hype from how good the third one was that people are going to check it out despite the two characters they're bringing in not being as popular. Amy's pretty popular. I think a lot of people are going to be excited for that. I don't know where they go after this one. In a dream scenario though, if I can pick who comes in next, I would love Blaze. I'd love a Rush adaptation. It's cool. They could do something with two Robotniks again if they really wanted to. I'd also be completely fine with Agent Stone taking over as main villain. Just because that'd be a cool escalation for his character. And I've kind of realized that I do like the humans in this movie. I like Wade from the Knuckles show. I like Agent Stone. Tom and Maddie were always fine, but I actually liked them a little bit more in this one. I felt like they carried them out in a pretty good way. It felt like a natural evolution for them, and it didn't feel like they were taken away from what I wanted to see in the movie. So I was a lot more okay with them. They incorporate Tom in a way that I was kind of surprised with the story. Like, he really ended up mattering for the film's story and for like getting to the film's climax. So yeah, I really liked it. I'm bummed out about Live and Learn, but I really liked it, and I'm excited to see where they go. Apparently they're going to do another show. I don't know who they're going to pick. Shadow would make the most sense in terms of that being the one people would most likely want to see a show about. But one... No, I'm not going to say the first point I was going to make because I don't agree with it. That's just a point that a lot of other people make. I was going to say they need to not make it focus on the humans so much, but the Knuckles show did well with audiences. Sonic fans are the only ones who didn't like it. So, I mean, I'm sure there's other people who didn't like it too, but generally it was well received. I like Knuckles. I agree he should have been in the last two episodes more. I think the first three balanced him out fine. The fourth one, he's not in it that much as an intentional choice. I love the fourth episode. 5 and 6, he should have been in more of. They like, really, he should have been in more of those two. I even kind of like those two, but not enough of him. But I mean, the thing is Keanu Reeves. Like, are they going to pay Keanu Reeves to do a TV show? Maybe they will. I mean, especially if it's just like a 6-episode miniseries, but Shadow would make the most sense. Tails would be interesting. I just don't think that voice actor is going to bring in enough of a crowd. I hate to say that because I think she does an outstanding job, and I hope that being in these movies and working with these people kind of puts her more on the radar, so more people will bring her on. My light just died? My light just died. Hey, car battery, you're not dead, are you? Good. All right. That was scary. Anyway, I guess I'll end that here. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about this movie for 20 minutes. I should go home now. Bye.